Hey everybody, it's Jessica from Chambray Blue Sewing. I'm going to talk to you about the Make It with Wool contest. So I've known about this contest for many years. In fact, when I was in college, my roommate was the national winner for her designs. She knitted a sweater and made a wool skirt that took first place in the national contest. So that was the first time I ever heard of it. And that was umpteen million years ago, it seems like. Since then, she's won it like 5 times. Like, this girl is a rock star. A rock star. She's amazing. And I love her dearly. Anyway, she convinced me that I should try this contest. She has won it so many times. She's like, oh, there was one year when I was the only one that entered, which cracks me up. And of course, you don't want to go around telling people that. But I decided this year was going to be the year to try it. So the first thing you have to do is fill out some forms. They're on their website. You print them off. You fill out the form with your project idea, the pattern number, and then you have to send in samples of your fabric. So I had this great idea that I was going to replicate a Ralph Lauren jacket that I had seen on their website, and it was a blue and black plaid. See that back there? That's the one. So I found the fabric at a thrift store. And I'm pretty good about fabric content. I mean, I know my fabrics, and I was pretty sure this was 100% wool fabric. So I sent it in with the project idea, and then the pants were going to be a wool pant, which I'll show you that in a few minutes. So you can submit like a whole outfit. You can do a blouse, a jacket, a vest, whatever. It can be several pieces. It doesn't have to be just one piece. In hindsight, I probably should have stuck with one piece. It would have been a lot easier. But I sent the fabric in, and this was probably back in August of 2022. I was a late entry. The deadline is like early September. And it wasn't a lot of time between when I sent in my fabrics to be tested, because they test your fabric to make sure it's 100% wool. And then they get back to you and say, okay, yes, we'll accept your entry into the contest. So that's how the process works. So lo and behold, I had started this jacket as I was going along. I was, doing all these things, learning pad stitching and like all these tailoring techniques that are super time consuming. And they got back to me and they said, we're sorry, but your fabric is not 100% wool. It has to be like, I think it was 94% wool. You only have like 6% tolerance or something for some other fabric, and this didn't make it. It was only like 30% wool. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had to start over in my fabric. Fortunately, I happened to have another fabric in my stash that was 100% wool, so I sent that in instead. At this point, it was probably mid-October, mid-October, somewhere in there, and I chose this cashmere fabric. It's a Glen plaid. It's a suiting fabric that I purchased at Textile Fabrics in Nashville, Tennessee, a couple years ago. It's just in my stash. So let's talk a little bit about how this whole thing worked. The sewing patterns that I chose for my project were Vogue patterns. The first one for the jacket is this one. It's a Ralph Lauren pattern from 1988, number 2134. It's got these absolutely massive shoulders, which I personally love. And it's got all these welt pockets. It's got like 4 welt pockets, which I haven't made since I was in college. I mean, super long time ago. And I decided I was going to do the whole 9 yards, the pad stitching, all the tailoring techniques, right? Which I've never done before. So not sure which was my first mistake, but trying to squeeze all those hand techniques into a very short period of time when I've never done it before wasn't probably the best decision in the world. So this is the jacket. This is how it turned out. I posted a lot about this on my Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, you can kind of go back and look at that, the Chambray Blue Sewing page. A lot of the process, like each day, what I was doing. I don't, not so sure if I'm going to do a video on this. Probably not at this point. I'm just done with this project. I need to move on to something different. But it was a ton of work. The inside of the jacket is lined with silk charmeuse from Mood Fabrics in New York. And then I put some contrasting detail in there. It's just a really well made jacket. All the things, right? I have done absolutely everything I was supposed to do on this project. And there's a few things I love about it, and there's some things I hate about it. So number one, the fabric that I chose is so soft. Cashmere is so soft. It almost lacks structure. That can be, it's great that it's soft, but it can also be a problem structurally. You're trying to get all these crisp edges and crisp lines, and even with the hair canvas and the interfacing and all the stitching, it seems like it just sort of is mush. It's just kind of mushy here and there. And maybe it's just me that I, didn't do things exactly right, because it was my first time doing all this kinds of stuff. But I don't love the way it turned out. So part of the fitting problems that I went through was the shoulders. I love a strong shoulder, and the pattern has these absolutely gargantuan shoulders, gargantuan shoulder pads. I love that look. It works well for my figure. I have sloping shoulders, and when you put a big shoulder pad in it, it makes me look taller. It gives me more height and straightens out my fit issues around the waist and all the things. So my fit problems, besides being large busted and large in the waist, is that I have these sloping shoulders, and I kind of have a rounded back a little bit too, which doesn't help either. So working all of that into this jacket was really hard. The pattern for this jacket is 2 pieces for the front. It doesn't have a princess seam. So this is just a dart here. And then, so the front piece, it may look like it has a side seam, but that's a dart. The front piece goes all the way around to the back of the armhole here. So you can't take a lot of that in or let it out in those parts of the body, which is a flaw. It's a great design feature, but it is also kind of a flaw in a way, because it makes it very difficult to alter. So when I posted this, everyone thought that the shoulders were too large, which I kind of knew that they were, but that was sort of the look I was trying to go for, was these super large retro shoulders. But everything today is so fitted, and no one thought that made sense. So, okay, so I changed it. So I went in and I removed probably almost 2 inches off the shoulders. And when I did that, I think it caused me some other problems. So nothing was hanging exactly the way that it should. And even though it's better on me than it is on the hanger, like we got a few wrinkles and pulls going on there, you're not supposed to have any of that on me. And I'll put some video in here as well. You can see the way that it fits me. It wasn't 100% perfect, not as perfect as I would have liked. Even though I put my very best effort into constructing this item and doing all the things right, it still wasn't exactly perfect. But I sent it into the contest anyway. And I'm glad I did. I have no regrets, because I took first place in the at-large division. I have no idea if anyone else from Alabama even entered the contest, but we won't even talk about that. So after the judging happened, so you send your garments in to the judges. They also ask for a video of you wearing the items so they can see the drape, the hang, all that kind of thing. They need your physical garments to go through them, look, they give you a list of comments of things that you could do better on. And I knew that there were plenty of things I could do better. Like I said, this is the first time I did a lot of these things. And they sent it back to me and said, okay, you did well on these things. You did well in the fabric selection. They liked that. They liked, gosh, I can't even remember now. They liked the buttons, a bunch of things that they really liked about it. But then there was the kind of, you could do better in this area over here. So criticisms that I received were the pockets weren't as perfect as they could be, which I agree on that. I know they're not that perfect. I was trying to follow the method for constructing welt pockets in the pattern, which is kind of weird. I shouldn't have done it. I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway because I was in a hurry. The pattern directions called for these welts are actually one piece with the back pocket lining, and it's just really strange construction. Usually with welt pockets you have separate pieces of fabric, like this trim piece is a separate piece of fabric, and that construction I think works a lot better. Anyway, I redid the pockets on here like so many times. So that was one of the criticisms. They liked that the plaids all match. I spent a lot of time matching the plaid, like meticulously over and over and over to make sure that it would match. So that was a plus. But they sent things back to me and said, if you can fix these few things, you might do well at the national level. So I had a week or two to fix a few things and then send it on to the national level. There were a couple of comments I don't necessarily agree with. They didn't like the selection of jewelry or lack thereof. I didn't wear any jewelry when I took my photos because the original look on the pattern was very plain. I didn't have a scarf, but I just wore a plain tailor blouse, no jewelry with it. They thought I could use some statement jewelry, and they didn't love that. So there were a couple little things like that. I was sort of like, I didn't know that was part of the competition, but okay, fine, I'll redo it. So I did. And it didn't go so well at the national level. But let's talk a little bit about resources. So like I said, I used the directions for the sewing pattern, which were vague at best because I've never done tailoring before. And this was my saving grace. This is the Singer tailoring book. It is still available on Amazon and different places. I'll try and put a link to it in the comments. I happen to buy mine used at a thrift store, but it is around, and it is just an excellent resource for learning tailoring techniques. I mean, they break everything down step by step. It's got beautiful pictures in it. I wouldn't have gotten anywhere without this resource. I used every inch of this book. It's amazing. Great book to have in your sewing stash. I will definitely be using it again. I did almost everything in the book to the letter, including the lining with the detail of the contrasting trim on the inside of the jacket. That's where I learned to do all of those things. And this has a really good section on welt pockets, which I should have followed, and I didn't. Why? I don't know. The book is right. Follow the book. Okay, so the pants. The pant pattern. I lost it. Well, it's here. Okay, this is a Claire Schaefer design. It is also a Vogue pattern. Hold on, we're going to pause.